guys, today we are learning about line plots. I have an example of a line plot here on my intro slide. So you'll notice that you can see the data arranged by those cute little X's. First and foremost though, I do want to just mention that I want you guys to each stay healthy. I hope that you're being helpful to your parents and or guardians, and that unfortunately we're not coming back to school for the remainder of the year, and I'm sad about that, not getting to see your awesome faces, but we're still going to make the most of it, and we're going to finish strong. All right, so back to line plots. I'm doing notes a little bit differently today, and that's just to kind of mix it up a little bit. So you're going to actually have your own set of Google Slides. So as you listen to this video, I want you to have a separate tab that has your Google slide. And as I go over the answers and reveal the answers to you in this video, I want you to type in the answers in your Google slide. Okay? So this is just a new way to take notes. I'm not going to do this every time. This is just something a little different, just so you have a change of pace. So let's begin on number 1 in your notes. We have one tool that can help us display our data is a line plot. So after we've surveyed people, we've collected data, we can arrange our data into a line plot. Now, sometimes a line plot can be called a dot plot. In fact, if we were taking the STAR test this year, you would see dot plots instead of line plots, but they are the exact same thing. The only difference is the line plot has little X's and dot plots have little dots. So a line plot uses a number line. So you'll notice our number line in our first example goes from 0 to 8. Our next blank here is the number line can show you the number of times that a value occurs in our data set. A line plot shows the spread of our data, and it also shows the distribution of our data set. So at a glance, we can quickly see how our data is arranged. I can see in this number line that our range is from 0 to 8, and the number that occurred most frequently is number 2. Now, I'm back on number 5. Remember that when you're making a number line, you need to be consistent with your intervals. And what that means is, in this case, we have an interval of 1 for each one of these little numbers on our number line. Sometimes you might see 0, 2, 4, 6, and there's an interval of 2, or there might be an interval of 5. But whatever the interval is, it must be consistent throughout your number line. Now, on number 6, it's asking us to drop and drag these words, cluster, peak, and gap, over our number or our line plot. So in the first example, I'm going to arrange the peak at the highest point in our data set. So I'm going to put that over number 2. So if you'll drop and drag that over above number 2, because that's the number that happened most frequently. I'm now putting cluster where most of our data is, and between 2 and 4. And I didn't really have a lot of space to put it over, so I put the word cluster underneath our number line. So if you want to just put it anywhere in that range between 2 and 4, that's where the majority of our data lies. And then the last word is gap. You always want to look at where is the gap in your data. And in this case, the gap is happening at 5 and 6. So that means that there were no answers that were number 5 and number 6. So maybe you have to go research that and find out why that is happening. Okay, I'm going to move on now to the next part. If we were going to actually create our own line plot, and we're going to do that tomorrow, you would need these steps. So you're going to draw a number line first, and I know everyone should be comfortable doing that. Number 2 says that we're going to label that number line, and remember, we're going to use consistent intervals. And then we're going to place either a dot or a little X to represent each value over our corresponding number. So let's go ahead and work an example together so that you know exactly what we're talking about, and then you'll have your own time to practice. So on the third slide, what we're going to do is analyze this data. Let's pretend like we surveyed people in our class, and we collected this data, the number of siblings. So we can look here and decide, it looks like there's some people that have no siblings, 1, 2, 3, all the numbers of siblings. And now we're going to arrange it in a number plot, or a line plot, excuse me. So first off, I'm going to count the number of people that have answered 0, that have no siblings whatsoever. So in this example, I'm counting 2 zeros. So I'm going to drop and drag 2 X's and put them above the 0. Guys, as you're arranging these, you may have to resize your X, and it does take a little finagling. So if your X's are not perfectly on top of one another, that is okay. Don't stress about that. You're not graded on how beautiful your line plot is. I do want to make sure that they're accurate and they have the correct number. But if the spacing is a little bit off, that's perfectly fine. We're not going to sweat the small stuff. All right, back to our counting of the number of siblings. So I'm now counting the number of times 1 occurs in our data set, and that's 2 times. So I'm going to drop and drag 2 X's above the number 1. I'm now counting for 2, so I'm going to count 1, 2, 3 2. So I'm going to put 3 X's above 2. Next, I'm going to count the number of 3s. And 1, 2, 3, I've got 3 X's above number 3. I'm counting how many times 4 occurs. 4 occurs 1 time. I'm looking now for any 5s, and doesn't look like there's any 5, so I'm going to skip 5. So I'm going to count 6, and I've got 1 6, so I'm going to drop and drag my X over to the 6. Now, I'm going to analyze my data in this new display, in the line plot. So as I'm looking at it, I can see a peak that's happening. Most people in this data set have 2 to 3 siblings. It looks like nobody has 5, 7, or 8 siblings. There's a couple of people that have none, no siblings. And I'm looking for gaps. I'm looking for the peaks, and I'm looking for most of the data. So most of the people in this data set have between 1 and 4 siblings, and that's where the cluster of data is occurring. If someone asked me how many people were interviewed in this process, I would simply count the number of X's that I had. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 little X's tells me that I had 12 people that were interviewed or surveyed for this data set. Okay, I'm moving along now to your turn. You guessed it. It's time for you to complete the remaining slides in your Google assignment. So when you're done, simply submit that assignment in Google Classroom and you're done. So